Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, in today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at Dragons Down, a new game designed by Scott Demers, and this was recently shipped from Kickstarter. If you want to buy this game and you didn't back it, don't worry about it. Beginning of 2025, there will be a new campaign with a new expansion, with I think the second and final expansion. So I was a backer of Dragons Down, and in this video we will be taking a look only at the core game, the base box. I didn't get the expansion, but Scott is actually going to send one to the channel to take a look at. So we'll return to this game in a month or so with a look at the expansion. But let's read a little bit about Dragons Down. Dragons Down is a board game set in a Western fantasy world. Players act as adventurers seeking fame and wealth in the hope of becoming a legend. They will explore a devastated realm, search and loot hidden treasure sites looking for great treasures and epic artifacts, fulfill quests, cast magic, enchant the land, trade with the locals, and perform many heroic deeds. All of this while fighting or sneaking past savage monsters and perhaps other adventurers too. The game is a giant sandbox that you can play in with your own goals in mind, or choose to play one of the included scenarios. Be warned, you are about to enter a dangerous place where riches and fame await the bold, but where one false step can be your last. Welcome to the world of Dragons Down. So Dragons Down, the creator, Scott Demers, is a huge fan of Magic Realm. And in all of the interviews and things that I've read, Scott has been playing Magic Realm since it was new, since he was a young kid of about 9 or 10 years old. And it has become his gaming obsession for his entire life for decades. And he wanted to pay homage, to write a love letter to Magic Realm, while also creating a game that could introduce the feeling of Magic Realm to a modern board game audience without the need of a 160-page rulebook or a 300-page learn-to-play guide. I have zero experience with Magic Realm. It is a game that I have often been curious about. It is a game that I am interested in for its historical context, but it is a game that I never want to play. When I see that rulebook, when I see that learn to play guide, and I hear about the game, it's just not something that I feel like I want to invest my time in. I think even if somebody were to teach me the game, I would probably still be a little weary of it. However, I have been fascinated by the game and the feelings that the game gives to the people who really love it. And so when Dragons Down hit Kickstarter, I was very interested, and I took a chance, even though the game lacks a lot of the things that I typically like in adventure games. For example, there is not a single random encounter card in this entire game. Longtime viewers of the Dungeon Dive will know that I love huge stacks of random encounter cards, hundreds of random encounter cards. The more random encounters, the better. There aren't any random encounters in this game. There is almost no flavor text. I think there's one paragraph of flavor text in the rulebook, and that is it. No flavor text on any of the cards. It's a very kind of crunchy game, very tactical and strategic. It doesn't check a lot of the boxes that I typically like checked in my adventure games. So, why is it one of the best adventure games I've ever played? Yeah, not to bury the lead here, but man, this game is awesome. I love it. I had it set up on my table for over a week, and each night I would play a few turns. I've played 3 games. I'm still learning it. There's a lot of nuance to it. There is a lot to discover in its mechanisms and how different elements combine to work together. But man, this game just gives me the feeling of an epic, grand sword and sorcery adventure, more so than a lot of games I have played. And I got to thinking, how close to a Magic Realm experience is this game giving me? Is it 60%, 70%? I don't know, and that's not really the perspective that I want to take on this review because I don't have any experience with Magic Realm, so I can't even make that connection. The only thing that I'm really concerned about is Dragons Down being a good game, and it is a very, very good game. It is a great game. I will leave the how Magic Realm is it debate up to all of the Magic Realm fans, and I'm sure that debate will reign for many, many years across the many internet forums dedicated to Magic Realm and dedicated to board games. But yeah, so this is a big sandbox game. You are competing for victory points. That's another thing that I usually don't like in games. When you play the competitive mode, you're trying to get a certain number of victory points by the end of 30 turns, and whoever has the most victory points wins. If you're playing solo, you're trying to get, maybe 20 or 30 victory points by the end of the game to have a successful game. But the sandbox is so much fun to play in. So now we're going to go down to the table and look at all of the things in detail, talk a little bit about the game. I do want to make sure this is very, very clear. This is not a learn to play video. I am not in any position to do a learn to play video on something that is this complex or this nuanced. There are a couple great videos you can watch. I'll put some links down below in the description if you want to watch videos to learn how to play the game, because that's kind of how I learned how to play the game after reading some rules. However, I do think I understand enough about the game to give you a good overview and to provide you with enough information to determine whether or not this is a game for you. So let's take a detailed look at Dragons Down. And hey, if I accidentally call this game Dragon's Dogma, just forgive me. I've been playing Dragon's Dogma, and in my mind, I keep conflating the two. So there's a very good chance that I might call this game Dragon's Dogma at some point. Okay, let's start our look at Dragons Down by looking at the character. The character, the hero we play, this is our avatar. The hero's eyes are the eyes through which we are experiencing the world of the game. Each player, and this game does play very well solo, and it also plays competitively and cooperatively. So I've only played the solo mode, and it's very easy to play. There are really no rules changes. You just play the game. So as a solo player, you will take your character sheet here, and your character sheet has slots for all of your gear and items and your lineage and your class and your backpack. Your character can wear a necklace or a trinket, a belt. You can have boots, a helmet, body armor. You can have a place for a shield and a weapon or a two-handed weapon. You can have 3 slots for miscellaneous items. You have 2 hands where you can wear gloves that cover all of your hands, or you can wear 2 rings and so on. So very, very straightforward. At the top of the character sheet, we also have all of the actions that we can take on a turn. So those actions are, you can become alert, and alert will allow you to perform a little better in combat, and will also allow you to prepare for combat by equipping and unequipping items from your body into your backpack. You can sneak. Sneaking will allow you to hide better, and it is very important to hide. You will be hiding a lot in this game, especially at the beginning of the game when your character is pretty weak. You will be hiding from a lot of monsters. And when you sneak, you have a better chance of becoming hidden. You can also make noise if you want to attract monsters. Let's say you're looking for a certain goblin that you need to kill, or a kobold, and you want to attract monsters. You can make noise so that monsters come into your clearing so you can kill them. You can take movement actions. There are different types of terrain. There are plains and mountains and swamps and caves, and some of those will augment the way that you move. You can search for things. You can search for hidden paths. You can search for treasure sites. And searching is a roll of dice. We'll talk about the dice in a minute. The dice are very devious in this game. You will learn to hate those D6, let me tell you. When you find treasure sites, you can take looting actions where you can loot for treasure, and treasure is very, very important in this game. When you discover spell books or spell scrolls, you can attempt to learn the spells that are in those. You can take a rest action to heal. When you are in civilization locations, civilization clearings, you can take different trade actions with the various merchants there. You can enchant the land. Magic users can actually imbue the land itself with magical powers that they can draw upon for future spell casting. Super cool. And if you're playing the version of the game where the map is not revealed, you can take explore actions to help reveal the map. And we'll take a look at the map tiles in a bit. At the beginning of the game, you will choose a character to play, and a character, a hero, an adventurer, will be a combination of a lineage and a class. And there's a lot of variety here. And in the expansion, in the expansion that's out right now, I think it's called Desolation. There is even more. There are, I think, double the number of classes and 2 more lineages. I believe the first expansion adds half orcs and half elves. But the different lineages are human. So we have 4 different human cards, so different types of representation, male and female. Very cool. I think one of my only complaints about the game is that all of the human men have long hair. I would like to see a bald human man. Possibly, maybe that could be added in an expansion. But we also have elves and dwarves and halflings. So yes, this is a very kind of typical Western traditional fantasy setting. It's not trying to reinvent the fantasy wheel. Your characters will have 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of 5 or 6 different attributes. So we have intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. These are your social attributes. Those will help you when you are in civilization locations or clearings, and you can get bonuses to haggling to lower the price of goods, or you can gain bonuses for when you complete side quests. You might be able to gain a little extra fame, a little extra money, because this is a score chasing game. You will be trying to get victory points, which are called legend points. Legend points are the big victory points that you're trying to get when your character dies or retires. You want to have a certain number of these, or if you're competing, you want to be the player with the most legend points. And then there are also fame points, and fame points are kind of ephemeral. These are when you're alive, you might be famous, but nobody remembers you when you're dead, so you're not a legend. But when you do retire, you can trade 10 of these in for 1 of these. So these are most important. These are a little less important, but you still want to get those because the fame points, can also be used for tie breaking. So these will help you in social situations. And then you have a health stat here. And let me tell you, your characters don't have a lot of health in this game. The only lineage that starts with 1 health, with 1 HP, is the dwarf, and they start with 1. Having 4 health points in this game is huge. I think the biggest creature, the most powerful monster in this game, only has 4 or 5 hit points. So hit points are a very, very highly valuable commodity in this game. But then you have 2 combat attributes. You have your speed of your attack and your speed of your maneuverability. So this is how fast your attack goes. This is how fast you are for dodging. And when you get into combat, and we'll take a detailed look at combat a little later, you kind of compare those values. And so if you want to hit first, you want to have a higher speed and attack. But if you want to dodge, you want to have a higher speed in your maneuverability. We also have these 2 aiming attributes, and those are used for PvP. I haven't even learned the PvP rules yet because I will probably never play with PvP. 99% of my games of Dragons Down are going to be solo only. And then each one of the different lineages will have a different bonus thing that they get to do. So humans, they get an extra action when they are in civilization locations. Elves, they get an extra magic cube, and they can also get an extra spell when they start the game. Dwarves get an extra action when they are in a cave location, or they get an extra movement, I believe. They aren't slowed by cave locations. And halflings have a better ability to hide because they're small and quick and nimble. So those are all the lineages. And then we will combine those with a class to create a character. We have knights, barbarians. This is kind of going in line from melee down through spell casting. So knights, barbarians, archers, warriors, clerics, rogues, warlocks, sorcerers, illusionists, enchanters, druids, and conjurers. And each one of those is double-sided, and they will be outfitted differently. So you can kind of choose which one. So if you were wanting to play a knight, you could play this knight who starts with chainmail, a longsword, shield, and 1 gold. Or you could play this knight, which starts with a Morningstar, chainmail, and 11 gold. So you have some choice there. Each one of these classes also has a special ability. The knight is better at healing. The barbarian can re-roll search dice in the mountains. The archer can re-roll ranged combat dice. The warrior, I don't know what that symbol means. We'll have to look at that. I haven't played all of these. I've only played 2. I've played a barbarian and a cleric. The cleric is kind of protected from the undead, and that's very powerful. You might think it's not, because when you take a look at the monsters, and we'll take a look at them in a bit, there's only 3 or so undead monsters in the entire game, but they're very powerful monsters. And being able to avoid the undead, being able to turn the undead is incredibly powerful. That simple, small ability saved my butt multiple times in the last game I was playing. The rogues are very, very fast. And then we get into our spellcasters. So we have warlocks, sorcerers, illusionists, enchanters, druids, and conjurers. And each one of these spellcasters focuses on a different school of magic. But for our game today, we will be simple, not the game, for our gameplay examples today. Let's be very basic. We will be a human knight. Let's be a female knight here. Okay, so we will place the rest of these cards away. And now let's take a look at our character. So we are a human knight. The humans start with 1 brown cube. So this game uses action cubes that are assigned to different items, different spells, and different abilities on our card to trigger different actions. Your brown cubes, these are your speed cubes. These are your maneuverability cubes. You will assign those to fast attacks or fast dodging. The knight is not a fast dodger. The knight stands with his shield and board, and just kind of he face tanks it. So that could be, that's tough. Having more maneuverability is very powerful in this game. But let's see, chainmail, longsword, and shield, or Morningstar, chainmail, and gold. I think I'm going to go for this side here. So I add up all the cubes on my card. So I get 1, 2, 3, 4 maneuverability cubes here, and I get 3 red cubes. And red cubes are your last attribute that I haven't talked about yet. And these are your might cubes. You spin these to use your weapons. And each weapon will have a certain number of mandatory cubes that you have to spend, and then some optional cubes that you can spend to do more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And on our character sheet here, we have 2 spaces for health cubes, and we have our unwounded, our healthy, and our wounded. The knight starts with 3 health. Hey, that's quite a bit of health in this game. So we will take 3 of our hearts here. And so now we have created our character. We'll get our loot out in just a minute in order to finish up building our character here. But health, when you are wounded, you can either wound health or you can wound your action cubes. If you ever have no health left in your healthy box, your character is dead. So you want to probably wound your action cubes before you wound your health. So there is a little bit of resource management here in how you take wounds and how you apply those. And you need to think about what you want to do on the next turn, how you can rest, and so on. Okay, finally, we need to find our gear here. So we have a chainmail, a long sword, and a shield. So we can take a look at our item deck here and we can find those. Let's see, chainmail, long sword, and shield. So there's our long sword, maces, spears, morning stars. There's our shield. Now all I need is our chainmail. Where is our chainmail? And there is our chainmail. So there are a large number of items, and we'll take a look at the other treasure in a minute. But yeah, so here we have our 3 starting items. So our chainmail, chainmail covers our hood area and our body area, so that gets placed in between these two. This can absorb up to 3 points of damage. If it ever absorbs more than that, then it becomes damaged or destroyed. You can repair it in town. This has a might of 2, so you have to have 2 might cubes that are unwounded in order to wear your chainmail. And this crossed out sword there means that this negates the effect of 1 slashing damage, because there's different types of damage. There's non-slashing and slashing damage. Okay, the shield is also armor, so it has the very same attributes. It can absorb 2 points of damage before it's destroyed. It needs a might of 2 to use, and it can also absorb 1 slashing damage. And then here we have our longsword. So let's go over the icons on the longsword here. It is a one-handed melee weapon. If this was a two-handed weapon, you would see 2 swords there. Some weapons can be used one-handed or two-handed, and when they're used two-handed, they have additional bonuses. Very, very cool. I love that. This here tells you that it is a melee weapon, and this is the weapon's length. The weapon's length is used to solve issues of ties when it comes to who is attacking with the same speed. If I'm attacking with a speed of 2 against somebody else who is attacking with a speed of 2, whoever has the longest weapon goes first in that combat round. That is very cool. I love that. There is also an optional rule in the game called closing the distance, where during the first round of combat, the only thing that determines the speed of the attack is the weapon's length. I think that's a really cool optional rule as well. And then down here we have our slots for our might cubes. So there are 3 red cubes. 2 of them are dark, 1 of them is light. The 2 dark are mandatory. I have to assign, when I want to attack with this sword, I have to assign at least 2 might cubes to swing my sword. This is kind of like stamina management in a game of Dark Souls or something like that. This sword here is a slashing damage, and if you cover a cube slot with that sword, you do an additional point of damage. So if I cover these 2 for the mandatory attack, I will do 1, 2, 3 points of damage. However, there is also an additional light spot here, which that is a non-mandatory slot. I can add a cube to that to do 1 more damage. So with a full swing of this longsword, I could do 1, 2, 3, 4 points of damage. That's really powerful. I could kill almost the most powerful boss or the most powerful monster in the game with a single swing. However, during combat, you can only spend 5 of your action cubes, possibly 6 if you've taken the alert action. And so you need to think about how fast you are attacking, how powerful your attack is going to be, and how maneuverable you are going to be in order to dodge your attacks. So again, very tactical, very strategic. There are a lot of great choices to be made while you are playing a game of Dragon's Down. Now, the other thing we get is we start with 1 gold, which, man, you might as well start with 0 gold, because let me tell you, you aren't buying anything with a single gold. Man, the cheapest thing in this game is probably at least 12 gold. But there are a bunch of other cubes too, a bunch of other colors. We have purple, we have black and gray and white and yellow. And what are all these other colors for? Those are for spell casters. So if you are playing a spell caster, you might start with certain starting spells, and you get to choose a spell based on the color of the cube that you have. And the spells are broken out into different categories. So we have our white healing spells, which could be heal, soul save, life armor, turn undead, and so on. And the skills have different icons. They can target 1 or more creatures. They have their own speed. They can be instanced. They can be used in combat. We'll take a closer look at the spells in a minute, because I want to talk about them in conjunction with how the rules for this game are written. But there are a whole bunch of different spells. So these are all of the starting spells. And then we also have a whole bunch of regular spells, non-starting spells that you can learn during the game. So there isn't a lot of bookkeeping involved with your character sheet. You don't need to keep track of a whole bunch of stats. You don't need to keep track of any XP. There really isn't any leveling up beyond your gear. Your gear, your loot in this game is super important. And the loot, the items, the treasures are all awesome. Well, not all of them are awesome, but they're all exciting. It's very, very exciting to draw a new piece of loot in this game because you can draw items that will add cubes, and cubes will allow you to perform more different actions. And cubes can also be wounded instead of your health. So that is the way that you level up. Okay, so we have our human knight set up, and now we can set up our world. We can set up our sandbox. And there are a couple of ways we can do that. So at the beginning of the rulebook here, we have kind of 3 sandbox modes that are detailed. We have the open realm sandbox, the explore the realm sandbox, and the legendary sandbox. These are all mostly the same with small distinctions. So the open realm sandbox, you will set up your map at the beginning of the game, and you will know exactly where the major things are, where the major terrain pieces are. Exploring the realm, you will start with 1 hex, and then you will take explore actions to build the map as you play. And then you have the legendary sandbox, which can be used with either the open realm map or the explore the realm map. And this just adds a little bit of a different victory condition. All 3 of these modes can be played competitively or solo, and those are the 3 main ways to play the game. However, the game also comes with a book of scenarios, and the book of scenarios has different scenarios for solo, for competitive, and for cooperative play. And they all seem to work pretty well. And what I like, there was a real focus on the solo game for this. A lot of times in these games, they say they're solo, but they're really not. They're kind of, you have to tweak too many things, or you can't use all your stuff, or you have to learn new rules. No, in this game, you can play just about anything. And if you want to play solo, you just play as a single lone wolf character. You can also play solo. You can play one of the cooperative modes and just play with 2 heroes. And I think 2 heroes would actually be a really fun way to play this game solo. But the first scenario is an introduction scenario. And then we have scenario 2, which is the Trove of the Great Worm, which is an epic quest for 1 hero. These scenarios have a little extra setup and maybe possibly some different win conditions and possibly some special rules that you have to keep in mind. I have not played any of the scenarios except for the beginning introduction game, and so I'm not quite sure how they play. I can't vouch for them. We have the Absolved for Your Sins. This is a mission-focused scenario for 2 to 4 outlaws. We have the Wanderers of Fate, a choose-your-own-adventure style. Seems like a really fun scenario, and this is probably the first of the scenarios that I'm going to play. In this scenario, you can kind of choose your own victory conditions. You aren't competing for your legend points. You're competing to do certain things in the game. And you will establish that at the beginning of the game. Each player will pick certain things that they want to do, and then you will go out and try to do those. That is really cool. And then we have the Evil Behind It All. This is a mystery adventure for 1 hero. We have Dungeon Party, a cooperative adventure for 3 to 4 heroes. And finally, I, Demon. This is a fan-made adventure for 1 hero by Hector Flores. So really cool. I like that there are a lot of options for solo play, and then you can easily play competitively or you can play cooperatively. So when you've chosen the way you're going to set up your map and your scenario, you will then pick your terrain. The base game comes with 3 terrain packs. We have caves, mountains, and woods. And the first expansion adds 2 more terrain packs, and it adds swamps and plains. So far in my games, I have only played with 2 terrain packs, and so we will set up the game using these 2, the Cruel Caves and the Malevolent Mountains. Now these terrain tiles here, that tells you what kind of treasure sites you might find in the world after you've created it. Altars and catacombs, treasure troves, hoards, chambers, and crypts. And then it also tells you what kind of merchants you might discover, such as an astrologer or a scholar. The woods will introduce shrines and secret caches, and maybe a crone and a blacksmith. And each one of these is double-sided. Side 1 is kind of a beginner, easy mode. Side 2 of each one introduces some more advanced elements, some more things that you might have to worry about. So far, I've only played with side 1. Now, each one of these will also come with a title card, and these are additional ways that you can earn your legend points, your victory points. The Malevolent Mountains will have the Knights of the Bannerets, and you can kill certain monsters to earn certain points, and then you can go to the keep, converse with the humans to earn these titles to earn your legend points. And the dwarves are looking for treasure, and so you can trade treasure for legend points with the dwarves in the caves. Each one of these is also double-sided to add some variety to your setup. And if you play with the Wicked Woods, the priests live in the Wicked Woods, and the priests want to have spells. So as you find spell books and as you find scrolls, you can deliver them to the priests for legend points. So very cool. There's a lot of variety in the way that you set up the game. Now, each one of these will have a certain number of tokens associated with it, as well as your tiles here. So let's take our mountain tiles and let's take our cave tiles. We also have tiles here for our woods. So if you were playing with the woods, you would use these tiles. But we have our caves and our mountains there. And so in playing with the open world setup, we will just take all of our tiles and we will shuffle those, and we can flip them because they are double-sided, and the different sides will have slightly different paths and possibly some different hidden paths, some different secret routes that you can discover while you're playing. So you just want to give those a good shuffle up with different sides and mix those up, and then we'll build our map in a minute. And if we take a look at the tokens, this is where the game, I think, gets really interesting, because each of the terrain packs has its own pile of tokens. And these are things that as you build your map, you will be discovering as you move from one tile to the next. And so you will have different civilization tiles. And so when you discover your civilizations, such as your dwarven mine in the caves, or your human keep in the mountains, you will randomize your civilization tokens, and that will tell you what kind of merchants are available. So we will take our civilization tokens for each one of these. We have the astrologer and an empty, so there's a chance that you don't find anything, a scholar and empty, and we will mix those up. And so we never know which one we are going to find when we enter a civilization tile. We also have these wilderness tokens, and the wilderness tokens have all kinds of different things. We can find treasure sites. We can find magical gates that will allow you to teleport from one tile to the next. Each terrain pack has its own gate. We have these forgotten cities, and there is a dwarven city. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but these are super legendary sites that all kinds of stuff find. Finding these is very exciting in the game because you get to draw tokens from all of the available terrain packs and pack those all into one tile so you can find a lot of treasure. We have different sites there. We can find items, so random items. We can find a random site, and we can find random treasure. And so these are shuffled up. And when you enter a mountain rain or mountain tile, you will draw one of these to see what you find. And then we will do the same thing for the caves here. So we have our sites, we have our gates, we have an item, we have the Dwarven Ruin. So that's the super legendary site. We have another treasure site, and treasure. Okay, so we'll take these and we will shuffle those up. And so those go on our wilderness token spot here. And then we have our sites. And so these are all the different sites: catacombs, troves, altars, and mines. Your mine, that is the site, that is the civilization site that you will find. That's where the dwarves live. And then we also have our keeps there. So we'll put those aside. And then in the mountains, we have our catacombs, our troves, and our altars. And we will give those a shuffle because you can find these in other terrain. So wilderness are for each specific terrain, the sites you can find in different places. So we have our site tokens set up there. Okay, so we have both of these. Now the sites also will dictate what kind of boss is might come out. So in the chamber, you might have to fight a titan. In the crypt, a lich. In the horde, a great drake. Here we have in the caves, at the altar, you might come across the great demon, or the catacombs, a death knight, and in the trove, a great worm. And so those are called guardians. Those are site guardians. And you want to be really careful about those things because, man, they can be very, very deadly. So I'm just going to move these off camera for a while. We don't need to see those right now. One other additional thing, that when one of these is discovered, then they will get populated with treasure that you can loot while you are playing by taking a loot action. And so that's kind of one of the main things you're doing in the game is you are looting these treasure sites to make sure that your character becomes more powerful. So now I'm going to randomly set up my map. The rules for setting up a map are pretty easy. You will just start with one tile. If you're playing multiplayer, you can deal out the tiles and then you can take turns setting things up. Basically, each of the paths has to align if possible. And so I will just kind of set this up off camera here, and then we will go back and you can see how it is all set up. Okay, so here we have our map kind of set up here. And so we have our mountain regions, we have our cave regions, and these will have different icons on them. So these are clearings, and there's 6 clearings in each normal tile. There's 4 clearings in a civilization tile. You can use a D6 to randomize clearings if you ever need to randomize something. At certain points during the game, you will be rolling dice to bring out monsters, and you will be rolling and you will look at these icons that correspond to the different monsters, such as dragons or orcs or goblins or kobolds or giant rats and so on. And if you roll the matching icon, then monsters come out into clearings that have heroes. It is very easy in this game to start in a nice, safe, empty clearing, and then by the end of your turn, have a giant stack of, of enemy tokens on your hero. And you have to evade a lot of monsters in this game at the beginning of the game. And speaking of dice, let's talk a little bit about the dice now. So we have our scenario set up. We're just playing an open scenario, an open sandbox mode. And now let's talk about our dice. So the dice, a lot of the dice are in pairs. And my God, the dice in this game are so devious. You will learn to hate most of these dice in the game. A lot of the rolls in this game are done by rolling 2 dice and then choosing the worst result. So in most of the instances, when you are rolling dice, you are basically rolling at disadvantage on almost every single roll. Let's talk about the summoning dice first. So these are how you summon monsters into tiles that have heroes, into clearings that have heroes. We have a summoning die here for, I believe these are for wandering monsters and local monsters. And you will roll these along with their, actually this is the local monster. And you will roll those with the corresponding number. And if the icon matches one of the icons on the tile, such as here, if I was in the Tri-Peaks and I rolled a mountain symbol on the mountain symbol is on here, and on the gray die, I rolled a 2, I would summon 2 juvenile dragons into my spot. And so if this happens once per turn, after all of the heroes have taken their actions, you will roll those, and then you will populate the board with your monsters. Sometimes you might roll this return symbol if you ever roll that, and there are monsters on a tile without a hero. Those monsters go back to your monster trays. They go home. So there is a way to kind of clear out some of the monsters that have accumulated over a number of turns. When you try to haggle, you will roll your 2 green dice. And if you ever roll a door, the merchant closes their doors on you, and you can't participate in that turn. You can't participate in that haggling or purchase any items for that action. Very, very deadly. You're looking for low numbers when you are trying to haggle. Each of the merchants will have a certain attribute that they are looking for. So the crone wants intelligence, the smith wants charisma, and then you take a look at your character card here. So my human knight is very charismatic, but not very intelligent and not very wise. And so if I was communicating with the smith here on my haggle die, I would have to roll a 4 or below and no door in order to haggle with that smith. So that's how haggling works. When you are looting at a treasure site, you will take your loot dice and you will create a stack of cards. I guess we can, in tandem now, take a look at the various treasures here because there are a lot of different treasures. So we have items. Items can be purchased. We kind of did a quick look through all the items. These are kind of your mundane weapons, your great axes, your leather helms, breastplates, slings, staves, and helmets, and so on. Not super exciting, but also not too bad. A lot of these are pretty good. We also have our treasures and our deep treasures. So deep treasures are a little more valuable, a little more powerful, and treasures are kind of your basic kind of magic treasures. You will have things like different magic symbols, different ways that you can combine and mix your cubes for different magic. Horn of the Dark Angel. This thing is awesome. It's a horn that you can spend 1 might and 1 brown cube in order to cast a super powerful spell called Fiery Chasm that can completely wipe out a civilization. That thing is amazing. The Symbol of Commerce. If you have this equipped, you get an extra action when you're in town. You have Belt of Expansion. This adds 2 random slots that you can hold random items. Thieves' Lucky Coins lets you loot better. We have a Dagger of Bite, which you can assign 1 might to use, and that has a 2 slashing. So for 1 cube, you can do up to 3 damage. That is powerful. That is super cool. The Digger's Ruin. So in the mines, you can re-roll your search dice. The Ring of Truth adds 1 white cube that you can use. The spellbook will come with 3 spells. Now let's talk about that for a minute. If you were to draw the spellbook, you would draw 3 random spells. And so this spell book has these 3 random spells. In a solo game, you can look at these, but if you're playing competitively or you're playing co-op, you can keep these secret. So this spell book has Turn Undead, Envenom, and Fiery Chasm. If you're playing a character who has the associated magic cubes, you can then attempt to learn that spell. And to learn the spell, you roll the Learn Spell dice, and you are looking for the books. However, these dice have a cursed symbol. So if you roll 1 cursed symbol, you are cursed. You need to roll at least 2 books in order to learn these spells. And if you are ever cursed, you can look at your curse chart here, and there are 12 random curses that you can suffer from. You can heal your curses when you are in town. So learning a spell, spells can be very powerful, spells can be game-changing, but there is a little bit of pressure luck because you might be cursed and you might not be able to learn the spell. But yeah, these items are so cool. The Mirror of Idolatry. The Mirror of Idolatry. I've never seen that, so I'm not sure what that does. If you're never sure what an item does, you can look it up in the Treasure Manifest. So the Treasure Manifest is in the rulebook, so let's look up the Mirror of Idolatry. This is an epic treasure. The hero may not sneak or alert while possessing this card, so it limits your ability to do things. However, it must always be face up. If face down and viewed by a hero, it becomes active. Okay, so the Mirror of Idolatry is kind of a cursed item. However, it is also a legendary item. Any item that has this red banner is a legendary relic, and so that will give you a victory point and some fame points. This red symbol here, that means that it is always active. So when you draw it, it's kind of a cursed item. It goes into your backpack, but it goes face up, and you have to deal with the consequences of this until you can get rid of it. You might find this in a treasure pile, and it stays face up in the treasure pile and is always active for the hero at that spot or something like that. These are very deadly. We have Potions of Relief. These can help you heal. Time Stones, they can help you move. The Bauble of Intelligence gives you an extra intelligence. The Disenchanter will allow you to unenchant lands. The Charismatic Gemstone will give you a point of charisma. We have the Incanter's Jewel will add a blue magic cube. The Tome of Nature will add a green magic cube that you can use, and so on. So treasures, very, very cool, very powerful. It's always fun in this game drawing treasure. And then we have the Deep Treasure. So these are even more powerful items. Mithril Shields, which are legendary. The Cape of Alteration allows you to, or forces you actually, to now brown cubes can be placed on red and red on brown. So it swaps might and agility, basically. We have the Ascendant Ornament. So you can, if you have, let's see, the Ascendant Ornament will allow you to, if you place a purple spell cube on this card, then that adds a red cube to a might slot. So this might allow a wizard character to use a more powerful melee weapon. We have the Vorpal Cutlass. For 1 might, you can do up to 3 damage, and then you can add an additional one for 4 damage. The Shield of Mercy. The Mace of Smiting comes with 1 permanent red cube. So all you need to do is add 1 more red cube to do 2 points of damage, or you can add a third to do 3 points of damage. These are Elven Slippers. For 1 green magic cube, you get 1 brown token, 1 brown cube permanently added. The Adamantium Blade has a cube there, already a permanent might cube. So you just need to spend 2 to do 1, 2, 3, 4 points of damage. Cursed Treasure, you draw another deep treasure, but you are cursed. So at that point, you will have to roll up one of the random curses. We have the Garb of the Gate. This is a fantastic treasure to get early. It allows you to just move to a gate. So you can teleport to a gate, not just from a gate to another gate. Super cool. I love the treasure in this game because the treasure is the way that your characters level up. It is the way that you gain more utility, that you gain more actions, that you gain more action cubes and health. It is so much fun to draw treasure in this game. So we took a look at the spell casting dice. When you do an attack, we'll go over combat in more detail in just a minute, but you will roll your combat dice. And again, you are always rolling at disadvantage. So if you roll 1 hit and 1 miss, you miss. We have our searching dice. So when you are searching for those treasure sites, you will roll these. You need 2 spy glasses in order to find the thing you are looking for, or you can find these magic pathways. And then, so you need 2. We have the hide dice and the monster dice. When you are sneaking and you're trying to hide, you can roll those. If you're sneaking, you can ignore 1 bad result, but if you're not sneaking, you need 2 blanks in order to continue to hide. Here we have our ranged dice. The ranged dice, these will modify ranged attacks randomly. And again, you always take the worst for the hero. When you're rolling for the monsters, you take the worst that can happen to the hero. And we have a regular D6 for randomizing clearing spaces. And then we also have, these are the only dice, I believe, that you don't roll at disadvantage. So these are the mission dice. And the missions we haven't taken a look at yet. Each of the terrain packs will have a certain number of missions. These are side quests associated with it. And you will have the icon down there. So these are for the woods. These are for the caves and the mountains. So I already have these mixed up. And so each of the merchants will have a certain number of side quests that you can go on. And these are ways that you can earn money. You can earn your victory points, your fame points, and then also additional things depending on the icon. So if I had this quest as an alpiner, I would have to enter all 5 of the mountain tiles. And then I would gain 20 gold. I would gain 1 legendary point, 5 fame points, and depending on my charisma, I can roll that many number of additional mission dice. And my charisma as a human knight is 4, so I could roll 2 of these 2 times. I would gain 2 extra gold, or 7 extra gold, 2 extra fame, and an additional 7 gold and an additional 2 fame. So the characters who are better at their social skills might gain more benefits from these various missions. And the missions, there are 3 different kinds of missions. We have these red banner missions, and those you have to basically kill things. You have to go out in the land and kill certain things, maybe kill some of the natives, because each one of the terrain packs also has natives associated with it. So the mountains, we have knights, and the knights are at the keep. And in the mines, we have the dwarves, and the dwarves are in the mines. And in the woods, we have the priests. And so the priests and the acolytes, and so they stay at their shrine there. The whites might also have you going out and killing certain monsters, and then the other banner is usually for some kind of exploration missions. Now, what's really interesting is there's almost no flavor text in this game. Who are the knights? There is nothing written about the knights. It is a blank slate. Who are the dwarves? Who are the high priests? Who is the black follower? Possess an epic treasure. That is a weapon. Okay, why? Why is this called the black follower? And in some games, that would be an issue for me. But in this game, because of the way everything is interconnected, because of the open sandbox nature, and the way that this game uses all of its stuff not for passive storytelling. You're not reading about the things your character is doing. You're not reading about the world. You are actively participating in the story that is unfolding, and the story is yours. And so you might have a mission to go to the keep and kill the knights. Okay, well, that might seem kind of weird if you're playing a human knight. Like, why would I want to go and kill my brothers and sisters in the knighthood? Well, you have to come up with a story for that. And so I did that in one game, and I was thinking, okay, so there's these knights. They're at the keep. Where is that? I can't remember. Dark Worshipper, Dwarven Foe, Jailbreak. At the keep, all natives must be dead. So the natives at the keep are the knights. So it's a jailbreak. So I was thinking, okay, so these knights, maybe they are these kind of Knights Templar, and they have become rebellious against their god or something like that. Maybe they are blasphemous, and they have profaned the keep. They have profaned the land of humanity by worshiping this devil. And they've taken my brother in the knighthood captive. And so I need to go to the keeps and kill all of these apostate knights who have turned their back on God, and they are worshiping Satan or something like that. They are apostates. They are evil. They are doing satanic rituals or something in this keep. And so I need to go and rescue my brother. So things like that. You need to come up with a story. Now, that's going to work for some people. That's not going to work for other people. And I totally understand that. For longtime viewers of the Dungeon Dive will know that I prefer to be in control of the story. I want to make up the story as I play. I don't want to read a story. And so for me, that's why this game works so well. So yeah, that was setting up the terrain. We have our knights. These will come out when the keep comes out. We'll put our dwarves and knights over there. Okay, so let's do a sample turn. Again, this is not a teach video, so I will probably make mistakes, but I should be able to give you a pretty good idea of how a turn looks. So your knight is, we'll take your token that matches the symbol on your class. And so the knight uses this token here. This is your active side. When you are blocked by monsters, you can turn it over for your blocked side. For the beginning of a game, you will start from any terrain, any path that is leading from one of the map edges. I will place this over here so we can take a look at our actions. And here are our 4 cubes for doing those actions. So for this game here, I'm going to come into the, what is that? The Ancient Hole. Okay, so I'm coming in. My knight, of course, Cragor, the human knight, is coming into this path here. And so I will spend 1 action to move into this clearing. And so that is a 1, and that is a forest clearing. So that's all I need to do. Now from here, there is a hidden path that is reaching from here into Cave 6. I don't really need to look for that hidden path. That doesn't help me in any way. But as soon as you discover a hidden path, you can always use that hidden path. So if I wanted to, I could take the search action, and then I could try to search for that hidden path. I have 1 spyglass, and if I want to search again in the same day, in the same turn, I can roll only the miss to try to get that other one. If I roll 2, then I have found that hidden path. But I'm not going to do that. I am going to, so first thing I should have done is I entered into this tile, and this is a cave tile. So I should have drawn one of these cave chits for the first time I entered here. So let's see what is in this spot here. And oh my gosh, the Dwarven Ruins. We moved into this ancient hole and we found the Dwarven Ruins. So this is really cool because this allows me to draw one additional token from every terrain pack. So we're playing with 2 terrain packs. So that is going to be 2 more things. Now, we might actually draw the Forbidden City, and this would be a very, very exciting tile. So I'm going to draw 1 more cave token and 1 mountain token, and let's see what we have found. We have found some treasure, and we have found the gate. Okay, so we didn't find a super, nothing super great, but this is okay. So the gate goes into clearing 4. So the gate is actually in this cave system here. And we also found some treasure. So I will draw a treasure card and let's see what we get. We have the Hawkeye. So this is a miscellaneous item. In the plains, I can re-roll search dice. So I will place that there and I will place that treasure there to show that we have found that treasure. Now, because we were the first player to discover the Dwarven Ruins, we would gain a single legend point and also 5 victory points or 5 fame points there. Now, one of the things you're going to do while you're playing is you are going to keep track of your adventure on this adventure journal. And so you might think, wow, okay, 30 turns. How will I keep track of 30 turns? Well, you will use this journal here. Each turn has a line, and you can kind of summarize what your character did on that turn. I love this idea. This is so cool. So this is from a game I was playing, and you can keep track of the date, your hero name, your class and lineage, the different advantages you have, what scenario you were playing, your hero, maybe your backstory. And then on this side here, you can keep track of all of the different tiles that you have visited. You can keep track of the hidden paths that you have found. You can make notes on things. You can keep track of the discoveries that you have discovered. And what's really cool is any of this information can be traded with other players. So if you have discovered on the ancient hole in the caves here, the ancient hole, and we were playing on side 2, and that's on side 2. If you had discovered the secret path from 1 to 6, you would circle that. And so you knew where that path was. And if you came across another hero, you could say, hey, I will tell you the location of that secret path for 5 gold. And then you can trade that information for gold. I think that is amazing. I love that idea. That is so cool. And you can also trade locations of your discovered sites. Because let's say we had found a site. And let's say that we'd found a site here. And so we found the chamber. And so the chamber would go into clearing 1, which is where I'm at. Okay, so that is the chamber. That's from the mountains terrain pack. So we can take a look at our mountains terrain pack and we can take a look at the chamber. So the chamber has 3 deep treasures and 3 regular treasures. So we'll take 3 deep, 1, 2, 3, and we will take 3 regular treasures. There's also a chance that the Titan might come into this chamber because that is the Titan's home. We will create our stack of treasure like that and place that there. Now for a loot action, we can roll our loot die. And let's do an example here. And I rolled this is the best roll ever. I rolled both of the hand symbols. So that allows me to take the top 3 cards and choose any one of them. And remember, the top 3 are the deep treasures. And so it's easier to roll higher numbers, and you will have to dig down to the treasure. So let's say I had rolled a hand and a 3, then I would take the 3rd treasure, 1, 2, 3. And as you start looting treasure, there are fewer and fewer treasures in this site to loot. And so it becomes harder and harder to find the treasure. Such a great idea. I love it. But I rolled 2 hands. So I get to look at the top 3 deep treasures and then choose the one I want. Okay, wow, a bow of the hunt. That is a super cool bow. We have the magical bowl of mixing. So this will allow me to take 1 purple cube and then I could transmogrify the other cubes into different colors. Or the robust ring. a ring that gives me 1 additional health. That is huge. Now, these have a price up here, 12, 11, and 14. That's the price I can sell it for. The price that I buy it for is 3 times that price, unless I successfully haggle. For each successful haggle, you can lower that by 1 step. So instead of 3 times, it would be 2 times, or 1 time if you successfully haggle twice. That's very, very hard to do. Haggling is incredibly hard. But man, this Bow of the Hunt is pretty good. But I already have a longsword and a shield, so I think I'm going to take the robust ring. I'm going to put that on my hand slot. Those will go back, and then I can add 1 health cube to my healthy spots there. So that's how you loot. That's how you deal with the chambers. Let's say that I have done all of my actions for this day, and I'm still in this chamber here. And then I would see if any monsters are summoned. So on this tile here, we have giant bats and trolls. Okay, so if we roll the skull symbol or the cave symbol, and I did roll this skull symbol, and I rolled a forest symbol. So the forest symbol does not correspond to the tile, so I can ignore whatever might have come out there. But I did roll this, which is a troll, and the troll, only 1 troll will appear. So let me find my trolls, and I'll get that set up, and we will do an example of some combat. Okay, let's talk about combat. Combat is a thing that I historically don't really love in these kinds of games. And usually that's just because it's kind of boring, but I find the combat in this game to be really exciting, and there are some really good choices to make. So as far as the enemies go, the enemies are represented by these tokens. There are no minis in this game, thank God. Thank you, Scott, for not making minis. But these, you can fight things like adult dragons, there are juvenile dragons, there are giant spiders, kobolds and griffins. Some of the enemy factions like goblins or orcs or kobolds might have a leader that you can discover randomly, but these are double-sided, and the enemies always come out with their named side up, and then when you have a combat encounter, you might flip them over and they have a little bit of a different tactics, printed on the back. But we are fighting, so I have my card set up here, we are fighting a troll. Now, I probably would not have wanted to fight this troll at this point in the game. It would have probably been better for at the end of that turn, of that sample turn, of that little kind of weird sample turn I was doing, if I had taken an action to hide, and then the troll shows up, and when the troll shows up, he tries to block my hero, but I can try to hide. So normally, if you're not sneaking, you roll the monster dice here, and I rolled at least 1 monster symbol. Remember, you are rolling at disadvantage most of the time, so I would not be able to hide. If I was sneaking, then it's easier for me to hide, so I could ignore one of those icons. So if I was sneaking, then I could hide from the troll. If you're hidden from the troll, I can continue to do whatever I want to do for the rest of that turn. And I can make myself known, or if I move out of that clearing into a new space, then I stop being hidden. But let's go through some combat real quick. I'll just give you a real brief example of combat. So if we take a look at our monster token here, the troll will attack me for 2 damage. The troll has a weapon length of 10. My weapon length is also 10, so it is a tie. So if we tie on that, then our attacks will be simultaneous. The troll has an attack speed of 2 and a maneuver speed of 2. The troll has 3 health, but they have armor, so they will negate one of the swords, one of these slash icons. And when I defeat the troll, if I defeat the troll, I will gain 12 fame points. And so we can spend up to 5 cubes because I wasn't alerted. If I had been alert to the combat, I could spend 6 action cubes. But right now I can only spend 5 because we'll say I didn't alert. So I want to attack the troll, definitely, using my longsword. My longsword requires 2. Okay, so there's 2. So now I'm doing 3 points of damage to the troll. 1, 2, plus the slash weapon of 3, but the troll blocks 1, so I'm actually only doing 2 damage to the troll. But now the troll has a maneuver score of 2. My attack speed needs to be higher than 2 in order to straight up hit the troll. So I could apply 3 of my brown cubes to my attack speed. So now my attack speed is 3. It's more than his maneuver speed of 2. So I just straight up hit the troll. I don't have to roll any dice. I do 1, 2, 3 points of damage to the troll. He blocks 1, doing 2 points of damage. So the troll has taken 1 point of damage. The trolls, monsters, and heroes are either wounded or they're killed. You don't need to keep track of individual hit points too much. Let's say that I had put 1 down in maneuverability, so I was at 2 speed and 1 maneuverability. Now my speed matches the troll's maneuver speed. It's 2 versus 2. So now I have to roll my dice. And I rolled 1 hit and 1 miss, so I missed. When you are tied for speed and maneuver, you have to roll these symbols here in order to hit, or you have to roll 2 hit symbols in order to hit. But we will keep that up there for that there. So my 3 to 2, I hit, I wound the troll. Now the troll gets to attack me for 2 points of damage. I have a shield and chainmail. I can choose to take that hit on my chainmail, which defends for 3. And because this hit is lower than 3, that just absorbs that wound. And that absorbs all of that, but I still take 1 wound. I still have to wound something. You are either wounded or you die. Those are your 2 options in combat. So I could choose to wound one of my additional brown cubes, and I could put that on my wounded box there. Now, if that troll had done 3 points of damage to my chainmail armor, then the chainmail armor would be damaged. If that chainmail armor gets damaged again, it is beyond repair. I can take damaged chainmail, damaged armor, go to a civilization and pay the price in order to repair it. So yeah, combat is really cool. You have to think in terms of your attack speed versus the monster's maneuverability speed. You have to think of when the monster is attacking you, how quickly you want to maneuver. Compare that to how many cubes you want to spend. Now, what I should have done actually is I should have probably, I could have put all 3 cubes there and killed the troll outright, but then my speed would have been 2 versus the trolls. So if I did that, let's take a look at that. This is a good example here. So let's say these were the 5 cubes that I spent. 1, 2, 3, 4 points of damage and 2 on speed. But the troll is going to block 1 of those points of damage, but that's 3. But now my speed is equal to the troll's maneuverability, so I have to roll my dice here. And a miss, so I miss. If I had rolled that, I would have hit the troll and we would have done damage. Or if I would have rolled that, we would have hit the troll and done damage. So yeah, really interesting. The combat, there are good choices to make. I think it's exciting when you start dealing with multiple monsters versus a single hero. You go in attack speed order. Sometimes the dragons might cast fireballs. What's the other side of the troll? The other side of the troll hits for 4 points of damage, but he's much slower. So yeah, so that's crazy right there. 4 points of damage. He could easily wipe out a hero in a single blow, especially a wizard hero or something like that. But yeah, I like the combat. I like the way that these cubes work. I like the way that you have to be efficient in how you attack and how you dodge. It gives you those kinds of crunchy choices that feel impactful. The combat in this game has weight to it, and I really do like that. So in learning this game, there are, I'm not going to say some issues with the rules, but some issues with how I approached the rules and how the rules are written. And the best example I can give is with spells, is with magic. So magic is fairly complex in this game. Let's talk about magic, and in doing so, we'll talk a little bit about how the rules work for casting spells, and that'll give you a good example of how the rules are written. One of the things you can do is if you have a magic cube, you can spend 3 points of 3 actions in order to enchant a tile. When you enchant a tile, you flip that tile over to its other side, and you add a cube that you have in your possession. You add it from the pool, though, a corresponding cube, to that tile. And so now the Tri-Peaks are permanently enchanted with purple magic. If the cube matches the color of the secret passages, then those secret passages can be just opened. So this magic imbued land has revealed the secret passages. Also, if you have a spell that has a purple cube, you can use the enchanted magic of that tile to cast that spell. So in some ways, you can also set up traps for other heroes by casting permanent spells on heroes. And if I cast a permanent spell on a hero that did something bad to them when they entered a tile that was enchanted by purple magic, they would have to deal with those consequences. That is super cool. However, one of the things about spells that I was reading in the rulebook, and it completely confused me at first, is that spells can only be cast during combat. And that was really weird to me. I had a hard time coming to terms with that rule because a lot of the spells are actually utility spells. So this spell here is called Nature's Help. It's a green spell. It costs 1 green cube to use it. You don't have to wound that green cube. Sometimes when you cast spells, the cubes that you use, the power that you use, will get wounded. And so you will move that to your wounded area on your character board. But the Nature's Help spell, you have to have 1 green cube in your healthy slot to use. And then it can help you on your future search actions. But I had a really hard time grasping the idea of, okay, so why would I cast Nature's Help in combat if I'm fighting? That doesn't make any sense to me. And you can go to BGG and you can see the thread I started. I'm leaving it up, not because I'm not embarrassed by asking that rule because it confused me. But that's when I learned about how the rules are written in this game. So combat takes place during the battle phase of the game. The battle phase is a 2-step process where you deal with monsters and combat. The battle phase and the combat part of the battle phase happen whether or not you are actually in combat. So you might be in combat, and if you are in combat, you can cast spells, but you still go through that battle phase, you still go through that combat phase, even if you're not in combat. And so you still have the chance to cast your spells. Additionally, in this game, you need to think about spells and you're preparing for your next turn because Nature's Help, it actually lasts until the next combat round. So I guess from what I was told in that Board Game Geek thread is that the original game of Magic Realm, the phases were morning and evening or day and night. And so spells could only be cast at nighttime in preparation for the next day. I think Scott, the designer of Dragons Down, I think he should have just taken that terminology because me being such a thematic gamer and thinking of rules in terms of theme, I had a hard time wondering why I would take the time to cast Nature's Help while I was in combat. That just didn't make sense to me. But having magic only being able to cast at night, maybe under the light of the moon and the stars, and night being a more dangerous time and having to perform these rituals to cast these spells at night, that makes thematic sense to me. And so once somebody told me about that idea, it was much easier for me to grasp how spells are cast. And there are a lot of rules instances like that where they are clear, they are written, and it took me a while to grasp what was actually happening. There's a lot of nuance to this game. There are a lot of elements to this game that you will learn new combinations of rules, new combinations of powers, new combinations of all of these amazing things that this game comes with. It's not all clear from your first game. It's probably not all clear from your 5th game, from your 10th game. And I think that's one of the reasons why a game like Magic Realm has been so popular with a niche audience is over the many decades, people are still discovering interesting things about Magic Realm that makes them want to continue to play it. And I get that sense from this game. I think this game is absolutely amazing. I have loved my time spent with this game, and all I want to do is continue playing this game. This game was set up on my kitchen table for over a week. Every night I was playing it. It's a perfect slow questing game where each night you can just play a few turns. The bookkeeping is all sectioned off here. It's all focused on your adventure journal, so you can easily keep track of what you did on each turn to remind yourself the next day, keeping track of where you've been, what you've discovered, what your missions are, what your quests are. And while you're playing, there isn't a ton of variety in this game. This game isn't overflowing with variety. If you're playing with only 2 terrain packs, you're going to see the same 8 things every game. You're going to see the altar, the catacombs, the trove, the astrologer, the chamber, the crypt, the hoard, and the scholar. So that's not a lot of variety. There aren't 100 different encounter cards that you're going to have. It's all very stripped down, focused on the bare essentials. You could add a third terrain. You could play with all 5 terrains, but that would be a huge map and probably be very unwieldy. But playing with 3, I think you could have a good handle on. But you would add 4 more locations, 4 more encounters. But where the fun comes, where the excitement comes, is how those are revealed, how you connect the dots for your active storytelling between those things, just the various. I was watching a Let's Play of this, and I never talk about. This is something I've never done on the channel. So I can't remember the guy's name. I'll post it in the link below because he's made a few good videos that you can help you learn the game. But his character, he took on the mission to kill the knights. And so he went to the keep, and on his way to the keep, he found that horn, that magic horn, where he was able to cast that fiery chasm spell. So he went to the keep. And during the day at the keep, he interacted with with like the scholar or the astrologer, and he bargained and he haggled and bought some goods, and then he hid. And at night, during his combat round, he used that horn, that magic horn, to cast that fiery chasm spell, and he completely wiped out all of the natives, all of the knights in that keep. And I just thought that was such a cool thing. I've never played a game that would allow somebody to do something like that. And he was playing it just very mechanically. He wasn't really talking about, what his character was doing in that moment. But for me, it became this image of this character hiding in the back alleys and waiting for the knights to walk by, and then blowing that horn, and this fire eruption from the ground just swallows up and completely devastates this whole civilization. And then you walk out having completed your mission. And why were you doing that? Were you evil? Were you sent to assassinate somebody? Or were the knights bad? Like I said before, maybe they had become blasphemous knights, Knights Templars, who were worshiping some satanic entity, and you needed to destroy them to restore your order's chivalrous ways or something like that. But this game continues to unfold in interesting ways, and I have not stopped thinking about it this entire time. And even though there's not really a lot of stuff, the things that are going on are all condensed down to their barest essentials. And Scott, the designer, has talked about things, over the last, I think he's been designing this game for something like 20 years or something, and he'll think of something, but then he's very quick to reject a new thing, because a new thing will often just add complexity and won't add any fun. And so what I think he's done is he's taken the adventure game and he has boiled it down to its barest essentials, where everything here is only here to provide the maximum amount of fun and adventure. There are no superfluous things in this game. You really couldn't remove one thing from this game and have it be the same game. But adding stuff would add complexity, it would add fiddliness, it would add new things that you need to learn, but it may not add that fun. And this is a game that is concentrated on the fun that we look for in adventure games without all the unnecessary fiddliness and complexity. And I so appreciate it for what it is and what it accomplishes. I think it accomplishes everything it sets out to accomplish. When I am done playing a game of Dragon's Down, I feel 100% satisfied. And I don't even have the expansions, and I'm fine. I feel so satisfied with this game. Do I want the expansions? Yes. I want to have the option to mix in another terrain, for it to have another terrain pack to discover some more things. Having more character options is good. The expansion also adds more deep treasure items and regular treasure. The third expansion that's coming out is an expansion focused on the natives, and that will give you more ways to interact with the knights, with the dwarves, and with the scholars. You can hire them to send them out on missions to help you overcome monsters and that kind of thing. But yeah, I am 100% satisfied with the adventure that I had when I'm done with the game. You know, it's kind of like when you go to your favorite restaurant and it's just a perfect experience. You find parking close by. They have the whiskey or the scotch that you want to drink. They have the exact menu item that you've been wanting, the perfectly cooked prime rib, and you have you're with somebody who you really like, so you have a great conversation. Then you have a nice dessert, and you go home and have a nice evening, and you feel 100% satisfied after an evening like that. And that is exactly how I feel after I have played a game of Dragon's Down. I don't think I've ever made an analogy like that on the channel before, but I have not experienced very many games like Dragon's Down before. This game has really, really impressed me. And I think this video was kind of scattershot. I hope I touched upon everything that I wanted to touch upon. We will definitely be doing more videos on this game. I want to a Let's Play, so don't even ask, because this game is complex, and there are a lot of places where I could make a mistake, and I just don't want to do that. But there are some pretty good videos that you can watch in order to learn how to play the game and see it. But yeah, we will definitely be returning to the game when Scott sends me that first expansion. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at the different terrain and maybe talk about some other things that has happened in some of the games that I've enjoyed playing. And then, yeah, early next year in 2025, when that new Kickstarter hits and that that second and final expansion, and that kind of constitutes Scott's full vision for the game, as he was envisioning this game to be Dragon's Down, the first expansion that is already out, and then that natives expansion that is coming out. And that is kind of like the complete vision, the complete game. And then one thing that he is super into is what he has called the transference of ownership. So we buy the game, we buy his complete vision, and then the game becomes ours. Then the game belongs to the fans. The fans have continued to add and change and modify things for Magic Realm over the many decades. And he is expecting, and I imagine I am expecting as well, the fans to do the same thing for Dragon's Down. It becomes our game, and we can take what Scott has given us and then modify it and hone it and change things to become even closer to the game that we want to change. But keep in mind that this game is really pared down. You know, you don't want to make a change because one small, simple change might break something else down the line. The characters, their bonuses are pretty small. One extra action in a city. You know, there's only, in this game I'm playing here, there will only ever be 2 cities. So having one extra, and you only have 4 actions on a turn. So yeah, there are different things you can do in the city. You can trade, you can take missions, you can complete missions. You can heal, you can uncurse yourself. And so, but for a human to have one additional action in a city may seem like a small thing, but if you were to change something about that action economy, it could negate that human's small bonus. So this is a game of small bonuses. And if I were to shelve this game with other like games in my collection, I would put this game on the same shelf as Darkest Night 2nd Edition and Shadows of Malice. And I think those 3 games kind of sit in this interesting place where they are a little abstract, and they are games of minute actions. You aren't doing grand epic things on a regular basis, but at the end of those games, of all three of those games, you feel like you have had a huge epic adventure because of all the little things, all the little cool little things that you've done from one turn to the next. So, that was such a rambling conclusion. Sorry, guys. Hopefully, I made my point. But the point is that Dragon's Dogma. I did it. The last time, was that the first time? The last time I mentioned Dragon's Down, I said Dragon's Dogma. Yes, but the point is that Dragon's Down is awesome, and I love this game. And yeah, it's for sure going to be on my top 10 of the year, unless something crazy happens, like 5 other better games come out between now and December, the end of December. But I doubt that's going to happen. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this really, really long video on Dragon's Down. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.